Hey everybody, Tony Cataspati from GreatVocalMajority.com website and also YouTube channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about polls. There's a lot of talk about who's leading in the polls. And it's hard to really figure it out because the polls are scattered. The results of each poll are scattered. I mean, some have Trump up, some have Clinton up. There's probably a cluster of them that show the race more or less within the margin of error. Some with Clinton leading, some with Trump leading. There's a few outliers. I mean, you know how it goes. But what each of these polls has shown over the last 2-3 weeks is a clear tightening. You hear all the pundits say that the race is definitely tightening. Well, what that means is that Clinton is either losing support or Trump is gaining support or a little bit of both. And most pundits, if not all of them, are saying that Trump has momentum. So what I want to talk about a little bit is when you hear these polls quoted, you hear a lot of talk about national polls. Now, the national polls really, some analysts will say they're meaningless, but they're really not meaningless. They're really lead indicators because think of it like this. The national poll is kind of like the tide, the rising and lowering of the tide. And state polls are kind of like low-lying islands. If the tide goes down enough, some of those low-lying islands will reemerge. But if the tide goes up, some of those low-lying islands will disappear. So think of those low-lying islands as states and, you know, where Trump or Clinton stand in either one of them. So in other words, if the tide is rising for Trump, which it seems to be, that would mean that there would be an effect noticed in the states. So when states do their polling, you know, in a time period that's congruent with the national poll, you should see a tightening in those states. Now, there are other factors involved. The demographics inside each state may be different. I understand all that, but I'm speaking in general terms. So it's possible that when you see Trump going out to a lead, that's going to have an effect in key swing states. And while the poll is just a poll, it doesn't reflect turnout. That's a completely different issue. But I just wanted to try to make sense out of the difference between national polls and state polls and how they actually, you can see how they sort of interlock in the sense that the national poll, any changes there portend of changes in state polls, in case you weren't already aware. That's all I wanted to say in this short, very brief video. Thanks, guys.